our service in a moment with Holy Place, Debbie Friedman, which you will find on your handout tonight before we return to the prayer book. Just one quick note, a recent discussion has determined that we will be opening the Ark for Alenu, which is customary in many congregations, and from that, at least starting tonight, we will be doing that. So, Janet,
Holy
take
place.
it away.
These are the gifts that we bring, that we may build a holy place. This is the spirit that we bring, that we may build a holy place. We will bring all the goodness that comes from our hearts, and the Spirit of God will dwell within. These are the prayers that we bring, that we may build a holy place. These are the visions that we seek, that we may build this holy place. Let our promise forever be strong. Let our souls rise together in song, that the Spirit of God and the Spirit of love, Shekhinah, will dwell within.
We turn now to page 2 of our Siddur. Roger and Diane will be leading us in lighting the Shabbat candles.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech ha'olam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Thank you so much. We continue with our service with welcoming the Shabbat bride with Lecha Dodi on page 20 in our prayer books. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat dekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat בשלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצחלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה, בואי חלה, בואי חלה, לך דודי, לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה, לך דודי, לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
You may be seated. We continue on page 22. Mizmor Shir Leyom HaShabbat Tov Lehodot L'Adonai, a psalm, a song for Shabbat. It is good to praise Adonai, to sing hymns to your name, O Most High, to proclaim your steadfast love at daybreak, your faithfulness each night with 10-stringed harp, with voice and lyre together. You have gladdened me by your deeds. Adonai, I shout for joy at your handiwork. How great are your works, Adonai! How very subtle your design. A brute cannot know. A fool cannot understand this. Together, the righteous bloom like a date palm. They thrive like a cedar in Lebanon. Planted in the house of Adonai, they flourish in the courts of our God. In old age, they still produce fruit. They are full of sap and freshness, attesting that Adonai is upright, my rock in whom there is no wrong. The Reader's Kaddish is on page 26.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, בעלמא דברה חירותי, וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעלם עולמי עלמיה, יתברך יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתהלל ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן בעלמא ואמרו אמן. Page 28. Baruchu et Adonai HaMevorach, Baruch Adonai HaMevorach, le'olam va'ed.
Together at the top of page 31. Praise to you, Adonai our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'ma'ariv ha'aravim. Everlasting love you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and on your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Elohim. Please be seated. The words for the Ve'ahavta from Debbie Friedman and You Shall Love are on your handouts. And you shall love Adonai, your God, with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. And these words which I command you on this day shall be upon your heart, shall be upon your heart. And you shall teach them diligently unto your children, and you shall speak of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, and when you rise up, and when you lie down, and when you lie down. And you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be for frontlets between your eyes. And you shall write them on the doorposts of your house, and upon your gates, and upon your gates, that you may remember and do all of my commandments, and be holy unto your God, unto your God, unto your God.
39. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, and that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together. Mi Chamocha is on page 40.
Ya ba ba bim bim bam, ya ba ba bim bam, ya ba ba bim bim bam, ya ba ba bim bam, ya da 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 da, ya ba ba bim bam, ya da 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 da, ya ba ba bim bam. Mi chamocha ba'alim Adonai, mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh, norati Lord, oh sefele, norati Lord, oh sefele. Malchutecha ra'u banecha, bokei hayam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam, ze'eli anu ve'amru, Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed. Ya ba ba bim bim bam, ya ba ba bim bam, ya ba ba bim bim bam, ya ba ba bim bam, ya da 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 da, ya ba ba bim bam, ya da 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 da, ya ba ba bim bam. V'nehemar ki fadar Adonai et Yaakov, u'ge'alot mi'ad chazak mimenu, Baruch ata Adonai Ga'al Yisrael.
Page 44 at the top, together. The people of Israel shall keep Shabbat observing Shabbat throughout the ages as a covenant for all time. It is a sign for all time between me and the people of Israel. For in 6 days Adonai made heaven and earth, and on the seventh day God ceased from work and was refreshed. The tefillah begins on page 46.
Please rise. Adonai sefatai titach ufia gitehi latecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah. Ha'el, Hagadol, Hagibor, V'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Ve'Konei Hakol, Ve'Zocher Chasdei Avot Ve'imahot, Umevi Geula Livnei B'neihem, Le'ma'an Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Mashiach U'Magen, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham Ve'ezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol Atah Rab Lehoshia, Mahashiv HaRuach Umorid HaGashem, Mechalkel Chaim Bechesed, Mechayeh HaKol Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim Verofei Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato Nishenei Afar, Michamocha Baal Gevurot, Umido Melech, Melech Memit, Umechayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atzalach ha'chayot ha'kol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh ha'kol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, U'kadoshim b'chol yom yehalelucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el ha'kadosh.
You may be seated. We're on page 55. Together, may these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. 57. You are with us in our prayer, our love, and our doubt, in our longing to feel your presence and do your will. You are the still, clear voice within us. Therefore, O God, when doubt troubles us, when anxiety makes us tremble, when pain clouds the mind, we look inward for our answer to our prayers. And there may we find you, and there find courage, insight, and endurance. And let our worship bring us closer to one another, that all Israel and all who seek you may find new strength for your service. Baruch atah Adonai, she'otecha levadecha be'yirah na'avod. Page 61. Together, grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country as a safeguard of peace, its advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within our borders, health and happiness within our homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship
among all the inhabitants of every land. Plant virtue in every soul, and may the love of your name hallow every home and every heart. Praised are you, Eternal One, who blesses our people with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, hamavarech et amo Yisrael v'shalom.
Please take a moment for silent prayer.
May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, my God, my rock and my redeemer.
Mishaberach Avotenu Avraham Yitzchak v'Yaakov Sarev Karachel v'Leah v'Yivarech v'Yerapeh et HaCholim. We ask God's blessing of healing for Stuart Bobkin, Carol DeVore, Joseph Falick, Jerry Fenton, Tracy Godfrey, Earl Hecker, Merrill Hirschland, Richard Hittow, Steve Keating, Sally Keaton, Faith Miller, Melinda Saulson, Joanne Freeman Schwader Tibatel B'Chaim, and Judy Zimmerman. Are there any other names we wish to mention, please?
Ryan, and John. Jan and Annie. Shirley Feldman.
HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yimalei Rachamim Alehem v'yishlach lehem refuah shlema refuah tanefesh u'refuah taguf hashta b'agala v'zban kli v'imru amen. May God send all who are in need of healing of body or spirit, those whom we've mentioned, those whose names are in our minds and hearts, a complete and speedy healing. V'nomar, and we say, Amen.
Amen. Page 253. May the source of strength
strips the bark so that they're striped looking, and he puts them in front of the goats as the goats come to the watering hole. And of course, whilst the goats are at the watering hole, they do what most mammals do in watering holes. I believe the term is mufki pufki. And as everyone, especially Dr. Shavitz here as a physician, knows this very well, that if you want to influence what the offspring will look like, it depends on what the parents are looking at whilst. Okay, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I got over here. So some of you know that I'm a city boy. About 19 years ago, I started playing rabbi in Cleveland, which was really the first time in my life I ever did anything like living in the suburb. And when this week's Torah portion came up, and this week's Torah portion always comes up sometime between mid-November and mid-December, in that range. When this week's Torah portion came up and I headed to temple to do services, all of a sudden I see in front of almost every house is colored sticks by the driveway. And I thought to myself, I said, what a Torah community this is. They had Jacob sticks here. And when we read Vayetze, they put them out. So I understand that this custom is observed in Detroit as well. And I'm very, very glad to hear it. It makes me feel very comfortable.
I didn't know there was orange bark.
Yes, exactly. Now, the beginning of the Torah portion, however, starts out as follows. Vayetze Yaakov Beersheba. He leaves from Beersheba. Vayelech Haran. And he heads off to Haran, where Uncle Laban lives. Vayifgab b'makom. And he arrives at a place, and it's at the certain place. Okay, it's not, for those of you who are Hebrew grammarians, it's not makom, but it's ba makom, which means at the place. Vayalanshan, and he stays overnight. Kivah Hashemesh, because the sun had set. And then we know the rest of the story, right? He takes from the stones of the place, he puts it under his head, he has the dream of the ladder, which is what we're going to talk about tomorrow morning at 9:15. However, the rabbis are concerned about, and we'll talk about the ladder tomorrow, but the rabbis are concerned about why the folks who put the barrels in, right? We call them the Safarayim, we call them the Masserists. The reason we call them Masserists is because from the word tradition. We use that term because we really don't know who they were. And why did they say in the place as opposed to a place? Well, the answer is just a few verses later, right? Because when he gets up from the dream, and he says, I could have had a V8, no, that's not what he said. When he gets up from the dream, and he says, God is in this place. This is Beit El, not the congregation, but the house of God. That it was a particular place. That it wasn't a random place. It wasn't a place. It was the place. Right? There's a big difference there. But then the rabbis get into a discussion as to, all right, so if we accept for the moment the idea that this is Beit El, that this is the place where Abraham almost sacrificed him, it's the place where ultimately the temple will be built, it's the rock over which at the moment is the dome of the rock and all of that stuff. If we accept that it's that place, all right, then the rabbis ask the question, how does this work? How does this work? There are some rabbis who say, and some authorities who say, that the place itself was holy. There's another group of rabbis who say that the place was an ordinary place. It was a place. But it becomes the place because Jacob stopped there. Right? You could travel around, right, the east coast of America, and you pass a little farm, a little old farmhouse, and it's a little old farmhouse, right? Unless there's a sign that says George Washington slept here. Then all of a sudden, it's not such a little old farmhouse. Or it's a special little old farmhouse. And so the question then is, does the place and the situation create the person, or does the person bring holiness to the place? How does it work? To ask it in perhaps more manageable terms, do our situations our situations in life, whether it's at temple, whether it's at home, whether it's with family or at work, do our situations at life create who we are, or do we create what the situations are? Do we make it? Now, when it comes to traditional sense of holiness, I really believe that we create the holiness. Right? Many of you have visited the Kotel, have visited holy places in Israel or other spots, and each tradition has its own holy places. And what I try to explain to folks is that the rocks are not transmitting holiness to us. They're just rocks. But that the holiness of any particular place is because of the sanctity that generations and generations and generations of people, Jews, others, brought to those rocks. Everybody here has something like that in their life. You have a trinket that belonged to your parents or your grandparents or someone who you love. If the same trinket were just sitting in a shop window, it wouldn't matter, would it? But because someone else who you love brought their essence, their kedusha, their holiness to that object, it has become holy in a certain way to you. And when that happens on a macro scale, you get holy places. Okay. But nevertheless, I don't know, the hotel where you guys are putting me up, very nice place. The residents in, it's really lovely. The staff is great. The television channels are limited. Unless you pay more. Which I'm not going to do. I mean, I have DVDs of the entire village, remember the night with Patrick Woodwin television program from the 60s? I have that, a full set of Rocky and Bullwinkle with me. So I'm but the question then is, which way is it? Which way? And I would like to solve the problem by saying the answer is yes. It's both. It's both. When we enter into a place or we enter into a situation in life, how we deal with it can determine whether that place and that situation brings sanctity or not. And each place and each situation that we find ourselves in has both possibilities and limits. In the business management textbooks, they call that constraint. There are constraints or there are limits as well as possibilities in every situation. I don't know how many of you follow politics in Israel. I'm not going to give a talk about that tonight. If you want to hear talk about what's going on in Israel, 6 o'clock Sunday night with the high school kids. Did the place make Jacob holy? Yes. Did Jacob and succeeding generations make the place holy? Yes. For me, it's not one or the other. It's both. It's where we're at and what we do to it. Those two ideas coming together, that's what brings it, God into the picture. That's what makes any place where I'll take down, a house of God. It ain't one or the other. It's an interesting rabbinic debate, but I think the solution is the answer is both. The answer is both. Vayifgadu makom. Jacob arrived, touched upon a place. May we try to be like Jacob, to make holiness out of whatever place, whatever time, whatever situation you're in. Shabbat shalom.
Please rise in either body or spirit as we open the Ark. Aleinu on page 282. Aleinu l'shaveach la'adon ha'kol la'tei tidulah li'otzer b'reshit shelo asanu k'gogei ha'arasot ve'lo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama shelo samcha kehu kahem ve'goraleinu k'chol ha'onam va'anachnu korim u'mishtachavim u'modim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu shehu notei shamayim ve'yoser haaretz u'moshe mikaro v'shamayim mima'al u'shchinatu zo v'gavei meromim hu Eloheinu Eidon emet malkeinu efes ulato kakatu b'torato v'yadata hayom v'hashevota al levavecha ki Adonai hu Elohim b'shamayim ima'al ve'al ha'aretz mitachat Eidon ve'ne'emar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol ha'aretz vayom hahu yigyeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad.
Please remain standing, page 293. Our thoughts turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and of death. On this Shabbat, we mention and remember the recent passing of Sally Schottenfels, Betty Flam, Sylvia Roth, and Vivian Simon. We also remember the yortzites of Leo Brodsky, Richard Brower, Sylvia Brown, Jeffrey Kaminer, Violet Cooper, Russell Davis, Molly Goldberg, Beatrice K. Goldberg, Roberta Sue Gorlick, Edith Gossman, Harvey Mann, Harold Merritt, Hazel Mintz, Martha Riley, Doris Krause Rosenbaum, Abraham G. Schock, Sheila Schussler, Bonnie M. Siegel, Ethel Strauss, and David Strom. Are there any names we wish to add? Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, V'alma divrach yirutei, v'amlich balchutei. B'chaye chon v'yomei chon, u'v'chaye d'chol Beit Yisrael. Ba'agala u'vizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehi shmei Rabba mevorach li'alam li'omei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei d'kudsha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Da'amiran b'alma v'yimru amen. Yehi shlomo Rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. V'imru amen. Oseh shalom mimomav, u'yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. V'imru.
Amen.
May the one who brings harmony on high bring peace to us, to all Israel and all humanity. Amen. V'amen.
Amen. Oseh shalom mimomav, u'yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen.
Please be seated. Brother Wormser is bringing us the announcements this Shabbos.
Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening, whether you are here or virtually. Join us tomorrow, December 3rd at 5 p.m. when we have our first ever Hanukkah and Havdalah. Enjoy 8 stations of family fun. See the flyer in the weekly email. Talking about Hanukkah, it's almost time for Shabbanika. Join us on Friday, December 23rd at 6 p.m. for a service with the TKA Band. Followed by dinner and fun and dreidel games for the whole family. The cost for the event is $10 per adult, $5 for each child under 10. Volunteers are still needed. Everybody here is voluntold. See the weekly email for details. RSVP to the office, and hope to see everybody there. Thank you for ushering today. Appreciate it. Hope everybody has a fantastic rest of their Shabbat, and wherever you go blue.
Thank you, Alan. Torah study and services tomorrow morning as usual. And we hope to see you for those as well as for this Havdalah warm-up. Gina and Sue will be leading us in Kiddush and Motzi.
Please rise, either body or in spirit, and we continue on page 5. As we lift the cup in thanksgiving. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'rotzavanu v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu. Zikaron lema'aseh bereshit, ki hu yom techila lemikra'ei kodesh, zecher litziat Mitzrayim, ki banu bacharta ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim ve'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uvratzon hinchalta joyful prayer is said. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. B'tei avon.
Thank you.
Please be seated. Our closing song this evening is going to be Adon Olam on page 321. Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivrach Le'eit Na'asa B'chefso Kol Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Ve'acharei Kichlot HaKol Levado Yimloch Nora Ve'hu Haya Ve'hu Homer Ve'hu Yiyeh B'tifara Ve'hu Yiyeh B'tifara Ve'hu Echad V'ein Sheni Lecham Shilo Lechach Mira Ve'li Reshit Ve'li Tachlit Ve'lo Ha'oz Ve'ha'misra Ve'lo Ha'oz Ve'ha'misra Ve'hu Eli Ve'chai Go'ali Ve'tzor Chetli Ve'etzara Ve'hu Nisi Umanosli Lenad Kosi Ve'yom Ekra Lenad Kosi Ve'yom Ekra Ve'yado Afkid Ruchi Ve'et Ishan Ve'a'ira Ve'im Ruchi Geviati Adonai li Ve'lo ira Adonai li Ve'lo ira.
Thank you, Janet. Thank you, everyone, for joining with us.
Thank you,
Shabbat
Gersh.
Shalom. Thank you, Gersh, for running the electronics.